Hey guys, we're going back to aircraft again this week. This time we'll be looking at Hasegawa's 148th scale J7W and markings for the series Magnificent Kotobuki. Let's open it on up and take a look. So, first, a little background. This kit has been around in one form or another for quite some time, so a lot of the kit's details are really starting to show their age. As you can see here in the cockpit area, being very, very sparsely detailed. This is one area where definitely you might want to look into doing the aftermarket route. Nose gear bay doors are okay. There's a little bit of ejector pin markings, but they're small enough that you should be able to easily clean it up. Moving on, we got some oxygen tanks, some gear controls, and the flight main control stick, some antennas, and part of the nose gear, a couple other odd end parts, and the air inlets. These are fairly nicely done, but not really need to go too deep in. Now, moving on to the fuselage. This is where you really do start to see just how old this kit is. You have a lot of raised panel lining, albeit with a couple bits of recessed panel lining. As I said, this kit is really showing its age. I hate to say it, but I think Hasegawa really needs to look at doing a new tooling on it. Again, moving inside, minimal sidewall detailing. Again, this is one area. The cockpit is an area definitely say it's worth the money to spend a little, get an aftermarket set, and detail it up. Much the same as far as raised paneling here on the canards. Gun barrels are okay; they're passable. You might go with an aftermarket barrel option, but I would say there are better areas to spend your money. Moving on to the aft end of the engine, it's passable. Most of this won't be seen once you get the propeller on, but it's nice that it's there. Nose gears, typical Hasegawa style of quality. Moving on to one of the rudder. Again, much of the detail is done in raised panel lining. Wouldn't nice, if they do retool it to do that. Also have one of the main gear wheels on this sprue as well. Continuing on, we got the other fuselages have much the same. We also have more detail parts and our nose gear bay, which is passable by itself. Again, better is the spend time and money detailing on this kit. The control panel is okay. It's sort of hit and miss. Some people might want to get something a little better, but most people, it's probably fine. We got our main gear struts, rudder pedals, the other rudder, and of course our big prop. Detailing on the prop is minimal, but again, a lot of it won't be seen once you cover it up with the housing. Again, not a whole lot to say there. Moving on to our clear parts. In terms of thickness, they're okay. Some of the surface detailing could be a little sharper, in my opinion, as it almost seems etched on with how thick it is. Could be just like a couple tenths of a millimeter thicker, just to add a little more realism. And hopefully this is showing up on camera. Apologies, trying to get things look just right, but overall they're passable. Moving on to our lower wing half, we've got our molded in landing main gear bays, which here the detail is not quite as good as the nose gear bay. A lot of raised little details that really don't fit the scale. They'd probably work in 72nd scale, but in 48th, they're not that great. Again, much of the detail is raised. You do have some recess for the flaps and ailerons, but overall, there's a lot of improvement that could be done. Last sprue, we've got the upper wing halves. Again, raised detailing, main gear doors, both outer and inner, and our cockpit seat. You do get a pilot figure included, but it isn't used. Overall, it's okay. Continuing on to the decal sheet, you do get these nice little metallic decals. And initially, I thought that this was used, but it's actually for the undersurface to give the illusion of the cockpit. So that's one decal. Since it does go right behind the landing gear bay, it will present some challenge to get just right. So that is something to be aware of. Beyond that, it's typical cartograph from Hasegawa. Sharp and good register. I do also like that they include this section as separate decals. So if you want to instead paint it, which to be honest, I think would be a little easier, and then just attach that afterwards. So having that as an option is nice inclusion. So moving on to the instructions. Oh, almost forgot. It does come with a little standee. Nice little inclusion if you're interested, but other than that, that's about it. So, assembly. Now, this is where things are not as bad as there's a clear logic and flow, which does keep things simple. The big thing I would say is make sure you put some nose weight in the front, as this will be a definite tail sitter if you don't. That's the big thing you need to watch out for. Is it's probably better to put a little extra weight. And you might even, since the canards are a separate part, get that in all together and dry fit it with the wings on and the landing gear on. See if you have enough, because you can obviously always stuff a little more in before you add the canards in. But beyond that, yeah, the build sequence is pretty simple and straightforward. There's no major issue points. Just, again, make sure you get the nose weight in. Now, as far as the marking options, it's pretty straightforward. Mr. Color was a little confused initially with how they were doing the paint callouts, which could have been a little clearer. But once figured out, it was pretty straightforward. The only critique I would have is their choice of red is just number 3, basic red. I honestly feel like a little darker red would match the example in the series just a little better. It is a darker red. I would even almost say Hasegawa's whole red would be just that much closer. Maybe even do a 50-50 mix would probably get the color more correct. Beyond that, obviously, like I said, if you choose to go the decal route, getting this decal on correctly will take some work. So I would honestly say it's probably better to mask it off and paint it as opposed to using splayed decal and then just use that other alternate decal for that. So overall, the Hasegawa J7 has been around for basically 20 years at least at this point. It's definitely showing its age, and if it weren't for the fact that the newer Volks kits are a lot of ways a little over-engineered, I would say wholeheartedly you're better off going with the Volks. However, given the fact that you can probably find a lot of these secondhand for reasonable prices, I'd say it's a wash between the two. You know, you can get this at a pretty decent cost basis, and yeah, you'll have to spend a little more time and effort in it, but you can still build up a very reasonable kit. So that was a look at Hasegawa's 1/48th scale J7W and markings for series the Magnificent Kotobuki. An older kit that needs some work, that's shown its age, but is still fairly relevant. Still fairly relevant. Until next time.